Welcome to today's deep dive. We are really excited about this one because we've tailored it specifically for you listening.
Yeah, we've got a fascinating mission today. We are looking at this profound text called Changing Attitudes.
Right. And it's this perfect intersection of everyday psychology and like really deep spiritual philosophy.
It draws directly from the teachings of a spiritual path known as Saint Mac.
Exactly. And, looking at this text, we have a really clear objective today. We basically want to act as your translators.
Because the source material does use some specific spiritual terminology, words like satsangas, simran, karma.
Yeah. And our goal is to just extract the mechanics behind those concepts. So, like, even if you have not been initiated into this specific path,
Or even if you're just, trying to survive a high-stakes Tuesday morning meeting.
right, you can totally apply this ancient framework to your daily life.
Because the underlying architecture of the human mind, it operates on the exact same mechanical laws. Regardless of whether you are, sitting in a remote monastery or literally just sitting in a boardroom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're going to examine this core premise. What if the attitude you hold right now is not just a mood? What if it's the actual rendering engine of your reality?
I love that phrase, rendering engine. Because it's true, the text we're looking at, it doesn't just offer these empty platitudes.
Right. No toxic positivity here.
No, not at all. It provides this structural breakdown of why we get stuck in our own heads, and more importantly, how to actively dismantle those mental traps.
So we'll start by just redefining what an attitude fundamentally is. Then we'll look at how it dictates your experience of completely unchangeable external events.
Which the text refers to as karma.
Right. And then we'll pressure test why we resist changing these attitudes so fiercely. And finally, we'll break down the precise discipline required to basically overwrite your own mental programming.
Yeah, but to get into that, we really have to first discard the popular modern definition of what an attitude is.
Because we get it completely wrong.
All right. Oh, entirely. If you ask most people, they treat attitude as totally synonymous with just a fleeting emotion.
Like, I spill coffee on my laptop, I get super frustrated, and my boss says I have a bad attitude for the afternoon.
Exactly. But the source material argues that true attitudes are not these reactionary blips.
They're way deeper.
They are deeply ingrained structural components of your ego, and they are forged over years and years.
I really want to look at the mechanics of that.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, it implies that we aren't actually reacting to the present moment at all.
No, we really aren't.
If an attitude is built over years, if an emotion is like the daily weather, then our attitude is the climate. We're essentially just walking around running a historical script.
That is precisely what is happening. The text explains that the memories of every single experience, every perceived slight, every victory, they're all stored in our subconscious mind.
Just piling up.
Right. So we think we are objectively evaluating a new situation. Like, say, meeting a new colleague at work.
Right.
But our brain is actually acting like a predictive text algorithm.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It rapidly scans its massive database of past experiences, finds a pattern that vaguely matches the current situation, and it just auto-completes our emotional reaction.
Before we even consciously register what's going on.
Exactly.
Which means we are continually just projecting yesterday's trauma onto today's blank canvas.
Yes.
But, if my brain's algorithm is auto-completing my reactions based on corrupted past data, how do I even realize that the script is toxic? My reality just feels like reality.
Well, this requires an understanding of how perception actually constructs our environment. The author brings in a concept that was popularized by Wayne Dyer.
Oh, I know this quote.
Yeah, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
It sounds a bit mystical on the surface.
It does, but it's not. It is pure cognitive science. We have this filter in our brain, the reticular activating system.
Right, the RAS.
Yeah, and it decides what sensory information actually gets through to our conscious awareness. So if your subconscious script is tuned to an attitude of defensiveness, maybe because of past betrayals.
Your brain will literally just delete neutral or positive signals.
Exactly. It filters them out and highlights only the threats in your environment.
So, say I expect people to undermine me at work. I walk into the conference room totally guarded, my body language is completely closed off, my tone is clipped.
And everyone in the room subconsciously registers your hostility.
Right. And then they pull away from me, which effectively engineers the exact toxic dynamic I was afraid of in the first place.
A self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, my attitude didn't just color my perception, it physically manipulated the behavior of the people around me.
Exactly. A negative attitude perpetuates the very circumstances that caused it.
Wow.
And conversely, a positive, open attitude alters the baseline conditions. The way you think determines what data you process, which dictates your attitude, which actively shapes the lived reality you experience.
Okay, I see the psychological feedback loop there. That makes total sense. But let's pressure test this against circumstances that we absolutely cannot manipulate.
Right, because there are things we just can't change.
Exactly. And this brings us to the spiritual concept of karma,
Yeah.
because the text discusses the perspective of sadsangas, who are the practitioners on this spiritual path. And they recognize that certain outer aspects of life, our destiny or our karma, are entirely fixed.
We are talking about like severe illness or global economic crashes or even just the family we happen to be born into.
Right, the raw data of life's challenges, it's already loaded into the system.
The karmic circumstances in which we operate are presented in this text as totally unchangeable events.
Then let me play devil's advocate here for a second. Let me push back.
Go for it.
If the outer event is fixed-like, if the ship is going to hit the iceberg no matter what I do, why should I bother trying to change my attitude? Isn't maintaining a quote-unquote positive attitude just a form of toxic positivity?
I see what you mean.
Like, am I not just deluding myself with a smile while the ship is actively sinking?
Okay, but if we connect this to the bigger picture, toxic positivity is the denial of the event itself.
Right, pretending the iceberg isn't there.
Exactly. But what this text is proposing is the radical acceptance of the event while taking absolute, complete control over the conditions of your experience.
Wait, break that down mechanically.
Yeah.
How do events and conditions actually differ if the outcome is exactly the same?
Let's use a really grounded example. The karmic event is that your flight is delayed by 8 hours.
The worst.
Right. And you cannot change that reality. No amount of positive thinking is going to make that plane arrive faster. The event is locked.
Sure.
However, the condition of your physical and mental reality during those 8 hours is entirely fluid, and it is governed completely by your attitude.
So if I let my predictive text algorithm take over, I get furious.
Yep.
My body just dumps cortisol and adrenaline into my bloodstream. My heart rate spikes. I'm pacing the terminal. I snap at the gate agent.
And then the gate agent understandably refuses to help you.
Exactly. And I spend 8 hours in a state of just complete physiological and psychological distress.
Right. And now compare that to accepting the unchangeable event. You acknowledge the delay. You recognize that anger serves no functional purpose whatsoever.
Yeah.
So you sit down, you read a book, you regulate your breathing. Maybe you even have a pleasant conversation with a fellow passenger.
The event, the 8-hour delay, remains absolutely identical.
Yes.
But the physiological and emotional conditions of my life during that time are radically different.
Exactly. The karma is the raw material. The attitude is the factory that processes it.
Man, that's powerful. It dictates how we negotiate our responsibilities, how we interact with the world. It turns fixed events into completely different lived experiences.
Which brings us to, honestly, the most frustrating contradiction in human behavior.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Right. If we know this, if we can clearly see that upgrading our attitude literally improves the biological and emotional quality of our existence, why are we so fiercely resistant to doing it?
The illusion of change. The text points directly to what we are attached to. It introduces this concept of letting go.
Yes.
And I just want to clarify for you listening, this is not the modern pop culture version of letting go.
Right. We aren't talking about decluttering your closets or like deleting old emails.
No. The source material insists on something vastly more profound. It is demanding that we let go of our outdated mental and emotional habits.
What the author calls the physical me.
Yes, the physical me. True personal or spiritual growth requires a systematic dismantling of our current identity. Following this path is literally reinventing ourselves.
And the hypocrisy the text highlights here is just fascinating. We all claim, we want to transform into better, more evolved people.
Oh, of course.
But we want to do it entirely on our own terms. We want to cherry pick what we keep and what we change.
We want the peace of mind that comes with a new attitude. But we absolutely refuse to surrender the comfortable indignation of our old grievances.
Exactly. We want the software upgrade without rebooting the system.
We treat our resentments and our defensive habits like they're sacred relics, just because they constitute our sense of self.
And this is where the text uses the concept of initiation. For a spiritual seeker in St. Matt, this is the formal starting point of their journey.
Right. But for the uninitiated listener, you can really just view initiation as the exact moment you commit to a new paradigm.
Yeah, the day you decide to break a toxic cycle or pursue a massive life goal.
And the author notes something so crucial here. The person we are at the time of our initiation is structurally incapable of reaching the destination.
It's so true.
The current hardware simply cannot run the new software.
Neurologically speaking, this is because the neural pathways that define your current ego, your current physical me, are just so deeply entrenched. To adopt a fundamentally new attitude, those old pathways literally have to atrophy. And your ego fights this process tooth and nail.
Because to the ego, change is practically indistinguishable from death.
Right. We
Yeah.
cling to our old persona no matter how miserable it actually makes us, just because it's familiar.
It's safe.
Yeah.
So we are dealing with a brain that is biologically wired to resist the very transformation we're trying to achieve.
Exactly.
Which means we obviously can't just stumble into a better attitude by reading a few inspiring quotes on Instagram.
No, definitely
So
not.
how do we actually systematically dismantle that ego?
Well, the text outlines a very specific active mental discipline, introspection.
Introspection.
And the author is brutally honest about this. Introspection is grueling work.
Yeah.
It requires standing guard at the door of your own mind and pausing at every single mental crossroad to evaluate your thoughts before they become actions.
For the spiritual seeker on this specific path, the text provides a very specific filtering question. At every crossroad, they are supposed to ask, will this decision take me closer to my master or further away?
With the master acting as their ultimate spiritual guide and compass.
Right. But how do we translate that mechanism for the listener who isn't operating within that exact framework?
It translates beautifully, actually. The mechanism remains identical. You simply swap out the ultimate variable.
Okay.
So if you are not initiated, you pause and ask, does this thought serve my ultimate goal? Or does it distract from it? Or, does this reaction align with the person I am building or the person I am trying to dismantle?
It is a constant, rigorous sorting of your own internal data.
Yeah, you ask the question, and then you have to act accordingly. You force your behavior to align with the answer.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I want to look at why that simple action, just pausing to ask a question, is so incredibly difficult in practice.
Oh, it's exhausting.
It is. We are essentially fighting cognitive load theory. The human brain consumes a massive amount of the body's energy. When we run on our subconscious attitude, our autopilot, it costs our brain almost 0 calories.
Right, it's efficient.
But active introspection, forcing the prefrontal cortex to evaluate a thought and suppress a habitual reaction, that is calorically and neurologically expensive.
So our brain actively fights it to conserve energy.
Exactly. Which is why the author brings in a quote from Maharaj Charan Singh in the book Light on Sant Mat. He states, "There is no habit or weakness which a man cannot successfully overcome, provided he has the grit and the right mental attitude."
Grit. I love that.
Yeah.
That word completely strips away the passive, floaty aesthetic that so often gets attached to, like, mindfulness or spirituality.
Right. This isn't about just manifesting good vibes.
No, it is trench warfare against your own biological drive to be lazy.
It really is. It requires this aggressive discipline to manually override your default settings day after day.
You have to forcibly redirect your focus from the loud, immediate demands of the outside world and all the cheap dopamine of your old habits.
Toward the difficult truth of your inner world.
Yes. And that brings us to the actual arena where this war is fought.
Okay.
We've established the theory of changing our attitude, the resistance we face, and the need for grit. But the text is very clear that just reading about this isn't enough.
Right. Theory isn't practice.
The actual dismantling of the ego happens in the practice of meditation.
Because the author is highly critical of what we might call intellectual spirituality, right?
Oh, very critical. We are incredibly good at talking eloquently about our inner life.
Spouting borrowed wisdom.
Exactly. We read the books, we understand the psychology, and we can articulate the exact mechanisms of our own neuroses.
Like we have the vocabulary of enlightenment down to an absolute science. I can diagnose my own toxic attitudes perfectly.
Right, but diagnosing the problem is not the same as actually undergoing the surgery. The text introduces the practice of Simran. For our translation purposes, Simran is a specific meditation technique.
Right.
It involves focused repetition, usually of specific words, and it's designed to gather the scattered attention of the mind and pull it inward to calm it down.
And the author points out this hilarious but honestly painful truth. Instead of actually doing this difficult work of meditating, we often practice what he calls the art of laziness.
The art of laziness, yes.
Which is just so relatable. And this is where cognitive load theory rears its head again. We sit down, we close our eyes, and within literally 30 seconds, we are wandering through this maze of daydreaming.
Because it's easier. We let the mind drift to what we are having for dinner, or we replay an argument we had 3 years ago.
Right, because engaging the brain's default mode network, the part that just generates wandering, self-referential thoughts, is totally effortless.
But actively mobilizing the mind to focus on a single point requires immense exertion.
So mechanically, how does focused repetition, how does Simran actually dismantle the old attitude?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening when we force our brain to repeat those words instead of daydreaming?
Well, think of your brain's working memory almost like a computer's RAM.
Okay.
It only has so much capacity at any given time. By forcing your attention onto the focused repetition of Simran, you are intentionally overloading that capacity.
I'll see.
You are occupying the channels that your brain usually uses to run its anxiety loops, its resentments, and its predictive text algorithms.
You're starving the ego.
Exactly. You're starving your ego of the processing power it needs to maintain your physical me.
So by holding that concentration, you quell the senses, and you put those constantly recurring worldly thoughts on an enforced pause.
Yeah.
You literally crash the legacy operating system so it can finally reset.
And the text explains that only when you completely silence that relentless self-interest do you open the door to discovering who you actually are beneath all that conditioning.
Because as long as the mind is racing, your attitude will always remain rooted in ego and self-preservation,
Always.
which honestly completely reframes the purpose of our daily attitude.
How so?
Well, a disciplined, positive attitude isn't just about having a more pleasant day at the office. The text argues that your daily attitude directly dictates your ability to succeed in meditation.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, if you spend 10 hours a day indulging in toxic, defensive thought loops, you cannot expect to sit down for 20 minutes and suddenly command your mind to be still.
They are deeply intertwined. Maharaj Charan Singh is quoted again here, and he states unequivocally, spiritual progress depends on our mental attitude.
Yeah.
You simply cannot build a new, elevated reality on the foundation of an outdated, hostile mental framework.
It just won't hold up.
Right. The daily grit of introspection feeds the focus of your meditation, which in turn permanently rewrites the subconscious scripts that govern your attitude.
It is a complete closed-loop system of transformation.
It really is.
So, bringing this all together for you listening, whether your goal is profound spiritual realization on a very specific path, or simply gaining mastery over your own chaotic mind, your attitude is the lens that dictates your reality.
Changing your life does not mean waiting for your circumstances to magically improve.
Right.
Their karma, the external events, the delayed flights, the economic shifts, those will continue to happen exactly as they are meant to.
You cannot change the raw data, but you have absolute authority over the conditions you experience.
Yes.
By applying grit, rigorous introspection, and the discipline of focused attention, you can literally force your ego to let go of its outdated scripts. You can trade in that stubborn reactionary mindset for an upgraded system that processes reality with clarity and purpose.
It just demands the courage to let the person you were yesterday systematically fade away.
And that leads to a fascinating implication, a final thought we really want you to mull over or explore on your own as we wrap up today's deep dive.
Yeah, because we've spent all this time talking about how your upgraded attitude changes your internal experience of the world.
But consider the ripple effect on the network around you.
Right. If your attitude operates as an algorithm that actively shapes the behavior of the people you interact with,
Then your mind isn't just an isolated system.
no, it's connected to everything.
Exactly. When you finally install that mental update and completely rewrite your own defensive scripts, you aren't just changing your own life.
Think about what happens when your fully upgraded, highly disciplined mind collides with a coworker or a family member who is still running their own corrupted legacy system.
Can your new attitude become so structurally sound that it forcibly rewrites the environment for someone else?
Pulling them right out of their own toxic loop.
It's entirely possible that by breaking the habit of being yourself, you literally give everyone around you the permission to do the exact same thing.
I love that. If you could trade your mind in today for an upgraded model, what is the very first outdated belief or attitude you would program it to delete entirely?
That is the question. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take that thought with you, and until next time, keep upgrading.